So we've got 2 area LDEs next week. We've got area 2 on Monday and area 3 on Tuesday. So the purpose of our visit here today is to orient everyone to the process. It's a little different since well, not a little different, it's a lot different with LDs this year since we're doing this over Zoom and not in person. The good thing is for all of our state qualifiers, the state events are scheduled to take place in person at State Convention on Monday, June 7th. So we do have that to look forward to this year, but we're going to get the area ones done first in the virtual setting. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share a document that outlines kind of the overall way that this is going to work. As we go through it, if you have questions, make sure you stop me, interrupt me, feel free to ask, and I'll clarify as much as I possibly can. And then once we do that, I will show the judges what the score sheets will look like. I'll show everyone what the score sheets will look like. And we'll also, at the end of this call, we're going to spin for the random selection of order for next week. We'll do each area separately. So first off, can everybody see the screen here? It should say review of Zoom procedures. Everyone sees that? Mm-hmm. All right. So again, as you have questions, please just stop me and let me know. So when we get on to Zoom on either Monday or Tuesday night, whichever day you're participating or judging, the main Zoom room is going to serve as the holding room for students. Everyone has the link. I sent those out over the last 2 days. All the judges got the link. Teachers got the link yesterday too. I did make a mistake, I think, on the area 3 links. I resent those to the judges. I think I had sent you the wrong one. So it is 2 different links for each day. If you're on Monday, it's got its own link. If you're on Tuesday, it has its own link. If you have questions about it, just make sure you let me know. So the main Zoom room is the holding room. That's where students will go. Now, your students are not going to sit in this Zoom platform for 2 hours. You're going to have a start time in which you're going to enter the room, which we'll go over here in just a bit, but that will be the main room. Each event is going to have its own breakout room. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom breakout rooms, I set them up on my end, and then I will assign you to the room to which you're going to go. And whenever I assign you to it, you'll get a notification will pop up, and somebody can tell me, because I've never seen it from that side. Does the notification pop up in the middle of your screen, or is it somewhere at the bottom? Can someone tell me how that looks?
Yesterday, Cade, for District 10, it popped up on the center of the screen.
Okay. So when you get assigned to your breakout room, you'll get an invite. You'll click it. You'll go into the breakout. If you're judging, I'll need you to be on by 3:45 to check your technology, make sure it works, and I'll put you in your rooms. And then the students will start coming on one at a time as they're assigned. Extemporaneous speaking will have 2 additional breakout rooms for preparation. That way we can have kids preparing their speeches as we go. Parliamentary procedure will have 1 additional breakout room that they're going to go in to do their written exam in addition to their demonstration. So lots of breakout rooms going. I'll see the list of people and I'll be moving you as we go. So again, if you're a judge, I'll need you to log on by 3:45 so we can check your technology and put you in the breakout room. For our students, you're going to join at the time indicated on the schedule. That schedule, we'll build it today once we spin for order, and then I'm going to share it with you tomorrow. The start time is going to be 15 minutes after the arrival time. So that tends to cause a little confusion. So for example, if Ms. Stelly has a student participating in Creed and on the schedule, it says 3:45, that means that you're going to join Zoom at 3:45 and your demonstration starts at 4 o'clock. If Mr. Manuel has a kid in prepared and the schedule says 4:30, his kid is going to join at 4:30. His speech will start at 4:45. So it's okay if you're early. I just don't want you to be late. So make sure that you join Zoom at the time indicated on the schedule. For every student who joins, I will make them turn on their camera and their microphone to make sure I can see them and hear them. If there's any technology issue, the kid will not be disqualified for a technology issue. We will work through it. If they miss their start time because of a tech issue, we'll keep working with them to fix it. We'll get them into the schedule at some point, either at the end of the order or if we can just squeeze them in somewhere else. But please work with them prior to next week to make sure the technology won't be an issue. So judges, if you have camera capability, you need to keep your cameras on during the students' presentations. We don't want the kids to have to stare at a blank screen, just talking to a black computer screen. We want them to see who they're speaking to. So judges, please keep your cameras on. If you're judging, I do want you to keep your microphones muted during their speeches. The only exception for this is employment skills and Go Teach Ag, because you'll be engaging with the students during their presentation. So for all the speaking events, keep your microphones muted, keep your cameras on if you're judging. Students are required to keep the cameras and the microphones on. That's one of the security features to make sure no one's cheating. We have to be able to see the student at all times and hear them at all times. So students, once you go into that room to do your presentation, you have to keep the camera and the microphone on. If there is a technology issue while the presentation is going on, whichever judge is keeping time, you should stop the time immediately, and then get in touch with me. I'll make sure that at least one person in each room has my cell number, and we'll make sure what's going to be the most fair way to proceed. It just depends on how bad the technology issue is. If they're at the very beginning of their presentation and it just completely crashes, sometimes it's better just to let them start over. If they were doing something like Go Teach Ag and they were like in the middle of an objective, sometimes we can just let them pick up where they left off, but we'll determine that, decide what's the most fair way for them to continue on. If you're a student, whenever you're finished with your presentation, if you don't have any other competitions, you go ahead and just get off of Zoom, leave it all together, and we'll send results out after the fact. So for this first big long point, does anybody have questions on the Zoom procedures? All right.
Will there be an opportunity to test the technology before that date, Monday, Tuesday, like Saturday, Sunday or something?
Yeah, I'll be working all day tomorrow, Mr. Cody. If you just want to email me, we can set up a time tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be available. I think tomorrow I'll be available from like 8 to 4. So just let me know. I'd be more than happy to hop on with you and make sure it works.
Good deal. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is now specific for judges. Here's how scoring is going to work. I'm going to explain these rules to you, and then I will pull up an example of what a score sheet looks like if you haven't seen it yet. You're going to submit one digital scorecard per student. So if I'm judging creed speaking and there's 9 creed speakers, I'm going to click on that scorecard link 9 different times to submit a scorecard. Every kid gets their own scorecard. There's no place on the scorecard to put multiple students. So it's one scorecard per student is what you're going to submit. When you look at the scorecard, there's a place for the judge's name. You have to put your name, but we don't share your name with students or teachers. We're going to keep you anonymous as to who scored what. The reason that you have to put your name is so I can make sure that you submitted a scorecard. There's been times in the past where some scorecards were missing or they didn't get submitted. And if your name's not there, I don't know who didn't submit a scorecard. So that's why the judge's name is required on the card. It's not to share with anyone. What I highly recommend you do is to go on our website and print off the paper version of the scorecard, use the paper version to take your scores, and then at the end of the event, transfer those onto a digital card. You can find those paper scorecards if you're judging. The link that I sent you yesterday, that's at our website. It says if you want to read the rules, you click on that. Within each set of rules, you'll find the paper version of the scorecard. The reason why that's beneficial is, especially if you're not using a double monitor computer, it's not going to be possible for you to watch the student present and also have the scorecard pulled up, trying to fill out the scorecard as you go. It's a lot easier if you have another set of it somewhere, either, like I said, on paper, or if you are using a double monitor, I guess you could have it up on the other side, but you want to make sure you see the student the whole time. So definitely figure out how you're going to logistically set yourself up. You do not have to submit the card immediately after each kid. We're going to run these results after the fact. So as long as we can get all the scores submitted by the next morning, that'll be perfectly fine. All of our teachers and students this year have been accustomed to not getting results right away. It just takes a day or two to get them all processed. So again, I would recommend judges have a separate way to keep score and then put them on the digital card. For those of you who are judging, you should not discuss the student's performance with each other. These are scored independently. Each judge gives their own independent score. It's not a collaborative event. You're not going to collaborate on rankings. You're not going to discuss where you want to place kids. That's not how it works. The rubric scores each kid. You're comparing their performance to the scoring rubric. So each individual judge will apply their score. Once your scores are done, we take all of your scores, put them onto a spreadsheet, and it will compile rankings. That's how we end up with the final ranking. It'll take the average ranking of each judge, and it'll calculate the student placing 1 through 4. if this is for teachers to know, if there is a tie in the rankings, our rules say, I think for most events, that we use the net total of scores to break that tie. If there's a tie beyond that, each event has its own formula for breaking those ties, but I don't think I've ever seen it go beyond one tie typically. We will have, for most of the events, not every event, but for most of the events, we'll have an ag teacher assigned to judge also to help with rule interpretation and to answer any questions. If you have a question you can't answer, just contact state staff and we'll make sure that we help you get that. Not every event has an ag teacher for areas 2 and 3. It just depended on how many volunteers I got, but every event will have at least 3 people judging unless somebody has an emergency and backs out the night of. At that point, it's too late. But as of right now, there will be at least 3 judges for each event. Creed will have 4 judges. One of those judges is specifically assigned to watch words and keep track of any missed words. Does anyone have questions on that before I pull up the score sheet?
Hey, Cade, this is Chip.
Hey, Dr. Lemieux, what's up?
Hey, will we have a list of the participants prior to that day so we, have their names spelled correctly and all that kind of good stuff?
Yes, sir. And what I've done for you already, I believe you're judging employment skills. Your scorecard should, I think I've done it already for you. And I may not have done area 3 yet, but your scorecard is already going to be set. It's going to have a drop-down list. You're going to pick the student's name and you're going to pick the student's chapter. So it'll already be there built into the card for you. I think I've already shared their documents with you too, so you can go ahead and start scoring those. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I also will send you the order once we finish that today.
Okay, and then in that order, they automatically come into the room, or we have to accept them into the breakout room?
It'll automatically put them in the breakout room.
Okay.
We'll have someone in each room, somebody who's got one of our cell numbers. You'll contact either Dr. Smith or I and just let us know you're ready for the next one, and then we'll send them in for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let me show you what one of these scorecards looks like. Can everybody see this employment skills scorecard on the screen? Somebody, I can't see y'all. Tell me yes or no if you can see it. Okay. So this is an example of what one of the scorecards looks like. You'll see there's a place for the judge to put a name, and then there's going to be a drop-down list. So all of these are the students who are competing. They're already built into the scorecard. This helps you. It also helps us when we run the results at the end, because if you misspell names, it throws them out of order alphabetically, and then we have to go search for them. So this way, they're all going to be in the same location on the score sheet. So you'll select their name. You'll also select their chapter. If for some reason you go to look for a name in a chapter and they're not on there, don't panic. Just let me know. I can quickly go into the card and add it. Every now and then I do miss some. I try not to, but if something's missing, just let me know and we'll quickly add it in for you. For some of these that had more complicated rubrics, when Dr. Smith built these scorecards, he put the rubric here for you to see, so that you get a better understanding of what you're actually scoring. You could also print this out on paper if you want to have the paper copy next to you while you go through it. But as you're judging, this corresponds to the paper rubric. It just goes down the line. So it gives you the instructions of what you're scoring, and then you select your score. Dr. Smith already built all the scores in. So again, there's no chance of you scoring too high or too low or missing a number. You pick the number that you're going to score it for each category. You'll do that for each one going down the line. When you get completely to the end, again, employment skills a little long. Don't worry, employment skills judges, you're not going to use this entire scorecard, because some of this we don't do on the area level. So don't panic on me when you see how big this one is. This is going to be mostly for the state level. When you get down to the very end, there's going to be a place for additional improvement. If you have time, please put comments for the students. This is very useful for students and their teachers so they know what to get better at. We share this with everybody after the fact, especially if they qualify for state or if they qualify for nationals at state convention. We want them to know what they need to improve on. If you miss any of these, it's going to make you go back and fill it in. So you're not going to miss a score. And then when you're done, you click submit, and then the screen will go away, and then you'll go back to the link and open another one. All of the scorecards look similar to this. They have the same format. The length just depends on the event. So do any of the judges have any questions about scorecard? Just to clarify, there's not going to be any, you're not going to take paper scores and scan them to me. You're not going to email me your rankings. You're not doing any of that. You're just going to use the digital scorecard, submit it for each kid, and that's the extent of it. We'll compile it from there on the spreadsheet. All right, so we should now be back on the Google Doc. Does everyone see this again? We're now on number 3, student reminders. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see there. All right. So this is for students now and for your teachers. Make sure you review the special LDE instructions on our website. If you go to laffa.org, you go to association, go down to CDEs, LDEs, you'll see the special instructions there down at the bottom around the LDE section. Make sure you review that so that you're in compliance with the virtual rules. There's not tremendous change to the rules because of virtual, but a lot of it involves security. So making sure that we can see you on camera, we can hear you, making sure that no one else is in the room with you, that you don't have resources in front of you, that you're seated during the presentations. Make sure you go and review that prior so that you're not confused or that there's no issues once your presentation starts. Also, make sure you're on time for your presentation. We're going to be flexible with this because I know that technology sometimes will give you difficulty, but that's why we also need you to check that technology prior. Make sure you're on time for it. Make sure that wherever you're working, you're going to have high-speed, reliable internet. If you know that the place where you're going to be doing this does not have good Wi-Fi or does not have good hard internet connection, find somewhere else to go. We don't want your presentation to be messed up because your internet just doesn't work. If you're going to be using certain technology, especially Chromebooks, I would definitely encourage you to practice this before the event. We've done these virtual LDs for quite a bit now. This is like the 4th or 5th one we've done. Chromebooks have been notorious for having issues with their cameras and their sound. I've seen some kids, the camera just won't work. I've seen some cannot connect to the sound. They also are very difficult to use for Go Teach Ag for the screen sharing feature. So especially if you're going to use a Chromebook, you need to practice this before Monday. We don't want you to come into the LDE and your technology doesn't work. I would highly recommend that you use a laptop or a desktop with a webcam that also has a microphone built in. If you can avoid Chromebooks, try to. I have had kids that have done this on cell phones if that's the absolute last resort, but the challenge of that is keeping it steady and keeping it still, and the quality is not quite as good. So again, teachers, this is kind of on you. Please make sure you practice with your students. Again, I'll be in the office all day tomorrow. I'll be there again Monday, be there Tuesday. If you need to, call us or email us and we'll be happy to practice with you. This year, because of the situation of not every kid is doing this at school, some kids have been doing it at home. I've seen some kids participate in their cars because they got to go to the McDonald's parking lot. It just depends on where you're going to do it. If you have official dress, please wear it, but you're not going to be deducted points this year if you cannot wear official dress. If you're not in official dress, please at least dress nicely. We don't want you sitting there in t-shirts and shorts or anything, but you won't be deducted points this year if you can't get access to your official. Again, I think we all know this at this point. We're not going to release results that night. It takes a while to compile all of those scores. So give us at least a day or two. We'll do a social media announcement via YouTube the same way we've done for all of the other events this year. As far as pennants go, I know that we're going to get phone calls probably on Wednesday. When are the pennants coming? We haven't ordered them yet because this year we waited until after these were done, so we didn't waste money on pennants that we didn't need. So it'll be a little while before you get your pennants. We'll let you know as soon as we get them in, and we'll get them mailed out to you. Does anyone have questions regarding student reminders?
So for the speech, will the students have to be sitting down or can they be standing up with the camera pointing at them?
They need to be seated, Mr. Cody, and we've tried this multiple ways. The reason why it's better if they're seated is because it prevents them from accidentally straying out of the camera shot. And it also ensures that they're close enough to the microphone that they can be heard.
Okay.
It's definitely a little awkward. I know that speaking, to a computer is not the same. I would encourage them to use hand motions. They can still be animated, but I know that if they stand up, they're going to end up over there and you can't see them, or they're going to back up so far away you can't hear them. So yeah, they need to be seated in front of the computer while they present. The only exception I would say to that, I've seen a few kids do this, but it is a risk, is that if you're doing Go Teach Ag, I've seen some that actually stood like in front of a smart board and they had the camera pointing at them in front of the smart board and they were using that for the teaching. You can do that. You just got to make sure again that you can be seen and heard. And then parliamentary procedure, obviously they're not going to be seated in front of a camera. You're going to have one camera in the classroom looking at all 6 kids at one time. P-law is a little different. We'll talk about that here in just a minute for those of you that have P-Law teams. Good question, though. Any other questions? All right, moving on, getting close to the end here. Let's talk about specific reminders for each event. So speaking of parliamentary procedure, we're still going to do the written exam. There's going to be a separate breakout room. What I've been doing, it's easier this way. You're going to demonstrate first, and after your demonstration, you'll be moved into the exam room. That way we stay on time with the demo part of it. It's going to be done via a Google form. It's going to look just like that scorecard that I just showed you, except it'll be the parliamentary procedure test. The students will go into the breakout room. For this one, each student needs to log on to a device so that they can each have access to the test. They'll go into the breakout room. We'll have a teacher assigned to watch them. They will get the Google form sent to them through the Zoom chat feature. It'll be a link. They'll click on the link. The form will pop up. They'll take the exam and they'll submit it, and we'll be able to compile the scores from there. So for parliamentary procedure, each kid for the exam portion needs to have their own device. They need to have a camera and they need to have a microphone, and the cameras have to be on so that we can watch them while they take that exam. For the demonstration part, the motions are going to be emailed to the advisor 5 minutes prior to the demonstration. So for area 3, we've got Miss Krista Bear here from Live Oak, and Miss Charlotte Street will be judging that event. Miss Krista is going to email the teachers a Word document that has the motions on them 5 minutes prior. The teacher is going to need to print it off. That you need to do this with the camera on you in the room so we can ensure that kids are not there looking at it prior to. You're going to print the sheet, cut them out, put them under their chairs, just like you'd be setting a practice up. And then 5 minutes after that, the students can come into the room and start the demonstration just like normal. For area 2, Miss Lana Myers will be scoring that event. Make sure for parliamentary procedure that the camera and the microphone can clearly see and hear everybody during the demonstration. The easiest thing to do is if you can put your 5 students who are members, put them as close together as they can be, and then have your chairman somewhere nearby them where you can back the camera up in the classroom and clearly see them. They need to talk loudly. I know with COVID regulation, they may have to wear masks, but if they are not required to wear masks, they need to take them off so we can hear it. I've listened to some of these, like they kind of need to yell to make sure that it can be picked up. Also make sure that there's no other distractions in the room. So if you have a whole bunch of chairs in the area, you just need to move them out of the way so that they're not sliding chairs around and making noise as the demonstration goes on. Tell the students to be as quiet as they can unless they're speaking. The teams can walk into the room just as they normally would. They can walk in a line, go to their places. The chair can tap the gavel, they can sit down, and then the judge will communicate with them as far as when to start. So very similar to a normal demonstration. You just need to make sure the camera and the microphone are correct. And you can take time with the judge before you start to make sure that she can see you and hear you before you start the demonstration. For Gulf of Mexico and for all of our speaking events, this is going to be the same instruction. You need to stay seated. You need to be about chest up in the camera shot, kind of filling up the frame. Make sure you can be clearly seen and heard. That'll be the same for Golf, Prepared, Creed, and Extemp. The only difference for extemporaneous speaking is going to be the preparation time. Again, we're going to have 2 separate breakout rooms set up for the students to do their prep. We will have a monitor in that virtual breakout room observing their preparation. The first 10 minutes will be allocated to internet research time. So what the student will do, they can just do their internet research on the computer that they've got the camera on. The monitor will call time after 10 minutes. At that point, and I'll show you if you can see me, at that point, the student needs to physically back away from the computer and away from the computer where we can see that they're not doing more internet research, and then they can do the remaining 20 minutes of their prep time. They'll also need to show the monitor any other resources they have. So textbooks, if they've got a binder of resources, they'll need to show that to the monitor before they start. Once that's all done, then the monitor will start their 30-minute prep time. We'll do 2 of them. That way, every 15 minutes, we can have another student and we're not interrupting each other in those breakout rooms. I know that's a little different. Any questions on extemporaneous? The monitor will tell me when the student's time is up, and I'll immediately move them into the demonstration room. For Go Teach Ag, this is very important. hopefully you've realized this or this has been conveyed to you, but all the activities are virtual. There are no physical items to be shared with the judges. You're not sending the judges worksheets. You're not sending them manipulatives. Everything is virtual. Now you can use any virtual teaching tool you want. You can use PowerPoint. You can use internet resources. Anything that you can pull up on a screen is fine. Anything that you can share in the chat as far as links, you can do Kahoot. Anything that the judges can interact with through their computer is fine. This is a completely virtual lesson and interaction. So just understand that. You're not going to send things to the judges ahead of time. The judges also are going to serve as the students. We kicked this around back when we first started doing these virtual LDEs as to whether or not we wanted to bring actual students in. But to minimize the number of people in the room and to make sure that you weren't going to use your own students and then rehearse with them ahead of time, the judges themselves will serve as the students. So the FFA members will be engaging them during their lessons. I will say this because we had this issue at a previous area event, and this concerns timing. So please make sure you don't make this mistake. If you read the rules, it says that the assessment portion is not timed, but it is graded. So it's in your lesson plan and it's assigned a score, but it's not timed as part of your demonstration. However, if the student gets to the end of their lesson and they pull that assessment up on the screen and they're still engaging with those judges as if they're giving them the assessment, it's going to be timed and you will run the risk of going way over time. So what I would highly advise you to do when the student gets to the end of their lesson, they do their closure, you need to say something like, that's the end of the lesson. We will talk about this again tomorrow, whatever. You need to have some sort of way so that the judges know that you are done and the time is stopping. Do not pull your assessment up on the screen and have that time keep rolling for you, and it's going to put you over time. They're going to score the assessment as part of your lesson plan packet. It does not get pulled up to be a part of your actual demonstration. Is that clear? Because I don't want to have anybody make that mistake again. Okay. With employment skills, all you're going to be doing for areas 2 and 3 is going to be the personal interview. There's no phone call. There's no follow-up email. We're not doing that for these 2 areas. So it's the same setup as the speaking events. You're going to sit in the camera shot, make sure that you can be seen and heard, and do the interview with the judges. I did get some questions, well, how do we introduce ourselves? You can't give them a business card. You can't shake their hand. You can't do any of that. Just introduce yourself, tell them where you're from. Whenever the interview is over, just thank them for their time and move on. There's nothing else you can do with it since it's not in person. Okay, that's the end of my document. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer for you?
Hey, Kay, this is Ryan from Winfield.
Hey, Mr. Riley, what's up?
I got one quick question about Go Teach.
Yes, sir.
My student was planning on them having a sheet of paper. Can they have a sheet of paper? Can the judges have a sheet of paper, or do we just need to transfer that to a digital format?
Can your student tell them to pull up, say, a Google form or a Google Doc?
Yeah, we can even put the link for a blank Google form, or would that be?
That's what I would do. I'm not going to give judges any additional instruction to come with anything, because if I do that, then we're going to open up the door to have to give them all sorts of things ahead of time. So I would just plan to have it all done virtually. If they can do it on the computer, that'll be fine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Anything else? All right. If there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead and do our drawing for order. Let me pull up my other document on this side. These names were pulled directly from the registration, and I went through and I took out any registrations that did not qualify at the district level. So when I pull these up, if you notice any that are missing or incorrect, let me know. And then we can go back and fix them, but I'm confident that these are accurate based on the last information that I saw. So let me pull this up. We're going to start with area 2. Let me get to the beginning. And I will share my screen again.
Okay, Monday is area 2.
Yes, sir. All right, can everybody see this wheel here on the screen? Mr. Eugene, can you see the wheel? I see you in my camera right now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to spin. These are the 3 teams that are registered for our parliamentary procedure in area 2. So we will spin and get our order.
Where's Vanna White?
Not here. So obviously Winfield Blue will be 3rd. All right, we're going to move on now to Go Teach Ag. And so Carol Chandler from LaSalle will be last. I'm sorry, not LaSalle, LaSalle. All right, we will move on to prepared speaking for area 2.
Cade, which one are you doing now?
This is prepared speaking for area 2. So that leaves Ashlyn Dugan from Grant. All right, we'll move on to Creed speaking for area 2. Got a bunch of them.
Hey, Cade, my Creed
Yes.
speaker didn't make it out.
Did not?
She did not.
Which one is that?
Olivia Boucher.
Okay, I'll make sure to just not include her as we spin. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Riley, do you know if these students from Calvin, I had two of the same ones for Creed and for Prepared. Do you know if they did both events or was I wrong on one of these?
Well, both of those names, they have multiple kids with that last name, and so it might have been a typo on Chad's part. Like, I'm not sure.
I'll check on it tomorrow before I send it out, before
Okay.
I put times on them and make sure I didn't duplicate them. She's the one who didn't qualify, correct?
Yes, and I'm seeing too many from our district, so
Okay, so if somebody has that list, just send it to me, and tomorrow, whichever order they're in, if they're not qualified, I'll just scratch them out. We'll just assign times that way.
perfect.
When did y'all host your district event?
We did it Monday, and Chris sent us a thing that said we needed to register, but we had to have registered before we got results.
Right, yeah, that's okay. Just send me the qualifiers and we'll pull them out.
Okay, thank you.
So Julie Schuff from Grant.
Cade, will you send out a list and the time schedules by names?
Yes, sir. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'll send that to all of the teachers and the judges especially once I get these corrected. Some of these have to be pulled off, but yeah, I'll share that with you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we'll move on to Gulf of Mexico now for Area 2. Mr. Riley, I'm assuming same thing here. There's too many from your district.
I think because Olivia Files from me had to drop out, and that left us with 4.
Okay. right, we will move on to extemporaneous speaking. And finally, for area 2, we have employment skills. All right, so that takes care of area 2. Yeah, if y'all can send me your district list, I'll go through tomorrow morning and pull out the ones that didn't qualify. And we'll make sure we have the times right. So now we're going to go on to area 3. We're going to do the same thing again. So here we go. We'll start with parliamentary procedure. So Elton Blue will be 4th. Going to move on to Go Teach Ag for area 3. Kelly will be fourth. We're going to move on to prepared speaking. So Jesse Bam from Northwest will be last. We'll move on to Creed speaking.
Hey, Kate,
Yes, sir.
Jesse Bayham, what, that was for prepare?
Prepared. Yes, sir.
No, he's not in.
He didn't qualify?
Yet, no, I just have one speaker.
Okay, I'll take him off.
I don't know why, I don't know how he got in there, but he shouldn't have.
No problem. I'll take him off.
All right, then I want to cause too much complications for you.
You
All right.
could. And Callie Billings from Rain will be last. Move on to Gulf of Mexico for Area 3. Riley Johnson from Elton will be last. Next is Extemporaneous Speaking. And Landon Smith from Basile will be last. And finally, last but not least, is Employment Skills for Area 3. Sheldon Clark from Starks will be last. All right, so that's the drawing order for both areas, for both events. Again, tomorrow, I'll make sure to go through and check with all these areas to ensure that we've got the correct list of names. I'll plan to send these lists out, plus the recording of this video to you by tomorrow morning before lunchtime. If you have any questions, please make sure you reach out to us. We can practice technology with you. We can answer anything you've got. And otherwise, you'll have a fantastic evening.